Moving to the fourth game of the weekend, we have the number 4 ranked Titans hosting the 5th ranked Baltimore Ravens side. Now, I think this is a terrible matchup for the Titans. The Baltimore Ravens are going to run the ball. That is one thing you can guarantee when you wake up and you watch this game. Baltimore are going to run the football. Now, what does this mean? They're going to limit the time of possession and limit the number of possessions that Tennessee has. What is the Tennessee Titans' biggest weapon? That 6'5" beast, Derrick Henry. So if you can take the ball away from him and limit the number of possessions, get out to an early lead, Ryan Tannehill is going to have to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And do I have faith in Ryan Tannehill? No, I do not. I think that this is going to be a lopsided game, especially with Lamar finding his rhythm. Now, for those who say Lamar can't pass the ball effectively, you might be right, but he can pass the ball well enough. He might not ever be a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning, but he certainly can pass the ball well enough to get out of trouble. I have this being a bit of a blowout. I have Baltimore scoring 30, and I have Tennessee scoring 17. So I've got Baltimore 30 to Tennessee 17. I think Tennessee will score again late, but I think it's going to be a pretty easy victory for the Baltimore Ravens. Moving to the 5th game of the weekend, and I think it's fair to say this might be the most boring game of the weekend. We have the number 7 Chicago Bears going up against the number 2 ranked New Orleans Saints. The Saints have a ridiculously stacked roster, and it looks like Alvin Kamara will play, coming back from the COVID-19 protocols. I think defensively they're going to suffocate the Chicago Bears, and that offense with a poor quarterback. Now, Trubisky, he's one of those guys where you feel bad for, honestly. Like, he tries hard, it seems like he's good in the locker room, it seems like he says the right things, but talent-wise, he just simply isn't there. And that Saints defense, particularly that defensive line, is legit. And they have a great secondary. And going up against a Chicago team which has some weapons, it's fair to say, but having a quarterback who can't quite distribute at the right times to those key weapons. Now, the only thing that's going to save the Chicago Bears is their defense, because their defense is also quite legit. They're solid, and I think it's going to make this game a lot lower scoring than most people are expecting. I just can't see Mitch Trubisky going up against Drew Brees and Sean Payton and winning. I just can't see that happening. I have the Saints 24-10. I think it'll be a pretty safe game for the Saints, to be fair. They'll probably bring in Taysom Hill towards the end just to save Drew Brees a few snaps, but I can't see the Bears getting close to this one. Moving to the final, and what I think is the most interesting game of the weekend, we have the number 6 Cleveland Browns going up against the number 3 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, before we talk about this game, I think it's fair to ignore the last game of the season. The Steelers were resting players, and the Cleveland Browns had to win. So if we throw the last game out the window, let's think about what that means for this playoff game. The Browns now have a legitimate team identity. They are a running football team. They run the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and they let Baker Mayfield play action off of it. And Baker Mayfield is talented enough that he can certainly play action at an extremely high level. The Steelers' defense is legit. They can seriously get after you. And they have a strong offensive line, which has given up the fewest sacks in the league. To me, this is going to be a close game. It's certainly going to be an interesting game, but I see it being a close, low-scoring game. I trust Mike Tomlin and Big Ben a hell of a lot more than I do than Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield. I see this being a close game with the Steelers winning 23-20.